Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Heavyweights Podcast, episode 94. We are inching our way towards 100, and we say it all the time, but I want to do something special. We haven't done it. The last in-person podcast we did was a frantic race across town as I had lost power, and that was the morning that Brett was on.
Yeah.
And so we were actually in the same room. But other than that, our very first one a lot of you probably, by the way, I'm Ashton Hines and this is Tavis Westbrook. But,
well, episode 94, we'd hope you.
Yeah, most of y'all, we may have a new listener every once in a while, but whatever.
Might get a new person.
We would love to have a new listener. I've actually told a lot of people about our podcast recently, and I'm hopeful that a few of them have, taken me up on at least listening to an episode or two. So, so the very, very first, a lot of you probably didn't even hear it or see it, but our original idea was that we were going to do this podcast at my house. I had this camera set up and I had these two chairs and I thought, man, this is going to look awesome. And we both got, first of all, just from a scheduling standpoint, it's really hard for us to absolutely know, okay, show up at this time, we're going to record. Which has become apparent over time. And it's been really good that we can be flexible with the virtual interview. But that first time we got here, Tavis was a little nervous. I was nervous. We sat in these chairs, we recorded it, and it was, I'm sure, okay, but it definitely was not as relaxed as it is now. And the video quality was just not good because it was like this kind of far, I only had one camera. It was this far away view of, two larger guys squeezing into these chairs that probably aren't meant for us and trying to like interview, kind of talk to each other. So it just, it made for an odd like visual. And after that, we're like, you know what, maybe we should try something different. So we've gone to the Riverside virtual.
I think of that every time I see the chairs in your background there. And I think
that's what
they actually get used because
I use them all the time.
Chairs, and I don't think that I think they're discontinued now, so I don't think you can get them anymore.
Yeah, we got those from Nebraska.
Enough to put them, I think, in all three of my midterms. I have those
okay.
chairs.
Yeah, but so I actually I love a recliner. I remember, so you remember Lawrence Cow? He's actually the bridge that's how I met you, really, through the grapevine. My buddy from college, Lawrence, he and the buddy Reggie were flipping. They used this random guy in Dallas named Tavis to do the boots on the ground stuff because they were over in California. I started following this guy on Facebook because I was from Texas and I was interested in real estate. And this was like 15 years ago or whatever, 16 years ago. And that's how I initially started following Tavis. He had no idea who I was. But so Lawrence, I remember this. He came to visit me one time in Louisiana and we had just had Luke. He was a small baby, but Lawrence is a really good designer, really good decorator. But super clean, super modern. And I remember him coming to our house and our style was like the opposite, just very dark burgundy, dark woods, dark, think like pheasant feather flower arrangement type things, very live, laugh, love in a lot
very
of
old
ways,
world.
Yeah. Kind of Mediterranean-y, but it was super popular for a while, in the early 2000s and mid 2000s. Anyway, he comes. I'm like, dude, I need, Luke's coming, and I really do want a recliner or like some sort of rocking chair or something for Luke when I'm holding him. And Lawrence was just like aghast at the fact that I would put a recliner in a living room. He's like, you just can't. Like, it just won't go. Like, you just can't. It doesn't look good. And I'm like, dude, this is like, I'm not terribly concerned over.
You're like, I grew up with
form.
This. I grew up with a recliner.
So I have this like cushy recliner upstairs.
In my house, in my parents' house,
So I ended up getting one. Yeah, I ended up getting like a cushy leather recliner, and I really liked it. But then we shifted some things around at our house here, and it didn't really fit. I put it up in the media room. Well, down in my office, I love the reclined. Like with my feet out front. So every morning, that chair you can see in the background right there with my tennis shoe out front, I pull my office chair in front of it and I prop my legs up on there and I recline back and I play on the computer and I listen to my radio and all that stuff. So that's my spot right back there. So
I love it.
good comfortable chair. But anyway, that is enough of a diversion into my personal design style.
So, question for you,
mm-hmm.
and we're live here, so the question is, when do we plan to go Facebook Live while we're recording?
I want to do that. We can actually try it anytime. I have it set up.
Okay.
We have to just log into yours. My only concern at this point is like we can go live. It's just do we want to do it at a set time? Because we rarely record at the exact same time every week. It's usually at least an hour or two off, right? But a lot of times it's a day or two later. And so I just didn't know, do we want to try to be consistent about a time and be like, hey, every Wednesday at 9, this is us? Or do we just like, hey, when we're here, we're going to go live and whoever can join can join. So we just have to talk about that. But we have all the mechanics in place. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, we can go through that. So you are, to say that you're busy is sort of an understatement. I have been busier, and I've got several clients on the buy side that I'm looking for things for, and some kind of investment. I talked to a new investor the other day, and they're looking for some flips. Of course, it's always a little difficult because it's they need the numbers to work. Everyone needs the numbers to work, and I get that. But if it was that easy, it would everyone would find them every day. But the nice thing is that, we've talked about Dustin and Megan finding stuff on market. I'm, getting comfortable finding expireds and canceleds. And you have a friend that you've worked with in the past that has a specific product he's looking for. And so we're searching expireds and cancels and reaching out to agents. And so that's really what I've been working on. And then just doing project
your
work.
Your list
for you.
that you had yesterday, I felt like you had some good candidates. So now it's just a matter of making that connection and diving in a little deeper to see if it's still available, if it's sold off market already or if it's still available, and then, then dialing it in to see what that looks like. Right. Before we bring it back to the client, I think that's important just to see if you've got that opportunity you dialed in, but I was very impressed with what you came up with so far. And I think those are good candidates. So,
off market, and canceled and expired type stuff.
You're thinking outside the box. You're digging under rocks. You're finding opportunities. Right now, I think you have to really stand apart to the competition in this business because everybody now at their fingertips or their phone. For instance, this particular client. I mean, he talked to me over the phone, and then he sent me Zillow leads of specifically the neighborhood pockets that he wants to buy in.
And he's in the business. He's knowledgeable.
It was very helpful. But I mean, it just tells you if it's a non-market deal. And he's busy with day to day and life and his business and everything else. So you taking that on and digging deeper to find those off-market opportunities and find something that's not, in your face on the market. Is, I think, key in components like this and other investors and things like that. I think finding those rare situations, right? And what's funny for me, we talk about buying on MLS, or not buying on MLS, and it dawned on me last night that condo or the townhome that we went and walked, and they agreed to my offer. Which, mind you, my offer is $70,000 less than what they're listed for on MLS. But they agreed to do it based on my history, and I've known this agent for many, many years. And in fact, she's been in the business longer than I have. Anyways, she hit me up last night, and she said something about, okay, well, I'm going to change status in MLS, and I was like, huh? And I was like, oh, it's actually active. Like,
that's
crap.
Funny. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a big deal. A lot of people in the past have gotten weird about like a paper trail on MLS. Like, oh, they're going to know what I paid for it. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll show my cards, right? Because, I mean, we'll put the money in it and reno, and, I did the work. It's going to be a nice place for somebody. I deserve to make a profit. So I don't worry about that too much.
Well, and at the end of the day, whenever it sells, you run comps and say, this is what the comps are. This is what's 100%. A renovated house.
And that's, agent wants to argue,
like, well, you just bought it. I'm like, well, I bought it and I renovated it,
But I've heard that. I've heard that over the years. I don't know how many times of people that kind of get weirded out about, showing on MLS or seeing a sales price on MLS and then, going through the process and putting it back on the market.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of they ask that question, well, what do you think? And it's like, well, I mean, if you can back it up, it's different if you're just taking it and I'm wholesaling it or something like that, right? Or if I'm, not doing any work and I'm wholesaling it, turning around and putting it back on the market, then you are going to get some pushback, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's tough. Doing a really, really quick lipstick and just kind of turning it around. I mean, not to say that you couldn't do that, but and at the end of the day, like I said, if you can justify the price and you can show comps, it is what it is. You did the work to find it and maybe cleaned up a little bit and put it back out there. Go for it. But you've got Dabney, which is over in Garland. You just closed on the split level over in Carrollton that we've talked about a few times.
Yeah,
and you just close this deal on a Dallas. What do we consider a townhome? Is that
it's
a townhome?
Dallas, yeah, it's a townhome.
Yeah, townhome. You've worked in this pocket
before. Close to the end of the month, but yeah, ironically, and I thought it was a really big shift in the numbers from 2017 when we sold these last projects to now. And actually, I was kind of impressed that it wasn't. I mean, the ARV is definitely a lot healthier, but my acquisition numbers and reno and stuff like that, I mean, we'll see once the reno actually gets done, because I've only been under budget about 5 times in all of my flips.
So well, this will be a good one because there's a lot of opportunity for upgrades, but you're gonna it seems that you're going to be able to keep a lot of the cabinets and maybe not even have to paint them, really kind of actually
sort of I was very impressed. I was like, just the way that design trends have shifted, I'm like, man, I can work with this. Now, 10 years ago, 2017, I probably would have been, I know I would have been. Like in 17, I probably would have been, okay, we're going to paint these cabinets.
Right.
And
but
now,
they're natural stain.
Yep. And the style, I definitely would have painted it back then because of what the trends were doing. So now I'm like, I can work with this. I can get some cool hardware. I can make this work. And I think I can almost, in a way, play off of the design that we did over at Shady Hill a little bit and play some of those color schematics in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it should turn out really nice.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's going to be a really neat project.
Almeida is going to be a good one for you to do some media on, because I walked it yesterday, and since we originally walked it, here's the thing, guys, too. When you kind of do, you've been doing what I do as long as I've been doing it, there's situations where, I mean, realistic, I've only been in this house one time, and it was the initial time Ashton and I walked it, and then we decided to contract it. And so we did that, and now I closed it yesterday, showed up for the second time I've ever been in it. Fortunately, it was cleaned out. Kudos to the agent and the seller, because they did a phenomenal job of cleaning it out and broom swept, and I mean, really good presentation to buy an investment property. So I'm like, oh, great. And I walked it, and I was able to go through it and just kind of like, okay, let me think budget wise and design wise. What can I keep? What do I have to change? And so I was able to work through that. I met my flooring guy over there. We did calculations on what flooring. They had some flooring in the house left over, and they kind of mixed matched it a little bit, right, with the floor, the stairs and the flooring was a little different. So we talked through all that. We're able to make all that work now. We're going to fix all that. And the only thing is I'm taking a little bit of risk of doing some of the floor work ahead of time before I do paint and stuff like that, which I typically don't like doing, but based on timing and to get momentum, and he's available now, and all those different things. So you got to kind of be fluid, as we've talked before.
Yeah. Well, there's a good chance that you're going to have I think you'll have 4 flips going at one time, it seems like. Or a very good chance that you'll have at least 3, maybe 3. 4.
Yeah, because Primrose just went live yesterday on the MLS. We've got a couple showings lined up for today. I think we have 3 booked.
Had a really good open house. Yeah. A lot of the neighbors got to meet to some of the neighbors, one guy might sell in a year. It's pretty vague. Yeah, maybe so. I'd like to sell in a year. Maybe we'll rent it out. What do you think? Just kind of feeling out the market. But at least they came and they were asking questions, and several people actually loved just the work that had, especially that entryway back to the laundry room where everything had been raised up. Multiple people had that same floor plan, like, oh wow, we would love to do this. Do y'all do work for people, or what would you recommend? So I sent Christian's contact information to somebody. Nice. So we had a great feedback. People really liked the design, and the neighbors were all really cool. And you never know, but specifically like over at Shady Hill, we have a neighbor over there that's a little testy, and so you just never know, like, hey, thanks for being patient with all the trucks out front, and here's my number if anything ever pops up. And one actually the next day or two, the neighbor texted and said, hey, that wind blew some siding off the top of the house. Oh man, thank you. So it's just kind of nice to make connections with people, and they're looking out for you.
And those like windstorms were nuts, but I'm glad I went over there. And I did see that. And unfortunately, like, there's a piece of that, the siding missing from the front of the house now. Well, it's the fascia. I don't know where it went. My real estate sign, the Westbrook brokerage sign, is the frame's there. The insert's gone.
Oh no!
I have no idea where it is. I drove around a little bit looking for it. I mean, that thing probably took off like a frisbee, and I looked to make sure it didn't go through somebody's window. It's got my number all over it.
Wow, that's funny.
And then the back of the house, there's that big piece that's kind of flapping in the wind, and so this house had vinyl and aluminum wrapped fascia. And I kept it. And so that's what came loose in this windstorm. I will tell you, one of those things that I decided to spend money on that I didn't have in the budget originally. It had that covered patio in the back, right? And had that steel frame to it. It was done well. A lot of those old F&J homes had covered patios, but they had like a wood frame, and they're low too. They're very small or short. So I usually rip them out. Well, this one had a metal frame, but it had a polycarbonate, fluted,
like the greenhousey.
Exactly.
Roof,
it was
greenhouse like roof material that looks kind of
bronze
green,
plastic roof, right?
Yeah.
And it was nasty looking and mildewy, and it had holes in it when it rained. And I was like, we're going to have to change it. We put a brand new roof on the house. Like, I'm either going to have to rip this thing down, or I'm going to have to put a roof on it. So it cost me like almost, I don't know, $3,500 to put a metal roof back on that section. Fortunately, I did that because yesterday I drove through the neighborhood, and anyone that had a polycarbonate, roof was either halfway there or completely gone. And there was pieces of polycarbonate roofing all over that neighborhood. So
we were just under tornado winds, I think. Over in Irving, they hit the F1 speed, but right around the corner from us, of course, it knocked a lot of power out. But then around the corner from us, there's this sort of trucking warehouse terminal, and a FedEx truck had flipped over. And it blew down a big brick sign up there. And
it just came just south of the marina and knocked out a warehouse over there. So
the marina, man, it's been through some stuff. All right, let's get into a little bit of a market update. So I will entire screen. All right. So here's our numbers for the DFW MLS in the last 7 days. We have 4,025 price decreases, 3,851 new listings. The price decreases are definitely up there. That's over 10%. I believe that's a little bit over 10% of the entire market that has had a price decrease, because we have 40,000-ish overall units in the residential world. And so price decrease 4025, closed 2,780, 2,282 pending. So let's look at our trends here. And here are our trends. We have new listings are trending down a little bit, which is interesting because you would think that this is the time they should be going up a little, towards the spring and going towards the summer. In January, we had 14,800, and now February, they show just under 14,000. So let's look back and just see if this is normal. August, September. Normally, it just trends straight up.
Yeah.
February, March. So I don't know. That is an odd dip back down for people not listing. So yeah, every year it trends up in this time of year. And this last month we had a retraction, which is interesting. Month supply, we are at 4.3. We topped out at 4.8, which was a 10-year high. But we are at 4.3 right now. Still feels like a buyer's market, even though it technically is not. Sales price is creeping up. It's kind of zigzagged. It's almost leveled out over the last year, just kind of depending on the month and the news and interest rates a little bit.
And
but
I think it has to do with obviously product, but also, also inventory, right? In that particular time. So
yeah,
like when I last, I kind of ran the statistics on, this Carrollton project that we just went live on, and it looked like inventory, was down. I mean, there wasn't a lot of inventory, for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. So, that's kind of your opportunity to test the market a little bit and within reason, right? Like, I'd buy with a pretty conservative ARV, but
yeah,
if I've got a couple comps that are just recently pending or under contract that are obviously, like, for instance, one that's smaller, just went on market like a week and a half ago, is under the option period. It was listed at 459. It's within a half-mile radius. It's a Fox and Jacobs house, 3-bedroom versus 4-bedroom, and pending at 459.
This is for Primrose.
Yeah. So that gave me the confidence to go, okay, I'm going to go at 450.
Yeah.
And and so far, I'm getting activity. I'm getting, showings booked for today. So that's what you need. You need as many people on the door in a short amount of time as possible, and you get the property sold for the highest potential value.
So, the overall units were at 39,404. Like I said, we topped out at 44,000. That was a 10-year high, basically matched a 10-year high. So we are trending up there because sales are slightly down. So even though inventory new to the market is dipping, the days on market is increasing.
Yeah.
And so things are, it's stacking up a little bit. So let's look at average here. We always look at average. Yeah, we're trending up. Average 72. A few counties are slightly down, but overall we're up. So it's always weird where all those are coming from. Tarrant County, Fort Worth has a ton of units, obviously. So if things are happening over there,
that's hard. What's
I can only
really
show
weird,
3 counties right here. So,
yeah, on some of these you see that the entire MLS is kind of all over the place versus consistency you see in our 3 main counties that we focus in: Dallas, Denton, and Collin.
Yeah, I'll look at Tarrant this time just to give a little love to our friends over in Tarrant County. See, I doubt it's much different, but so percentage of original asking price is a little bit up. Man, we dipped down to 93. There was a couple that were in a 93 average. 93 last in January. We are going up, so usually that means that the interest rates have been a little bit more stable. People are getting better at pricing, but there's just all these little factors that people are having a hard time pricing. And so there is more of a discount being taken off the original price, which lends to believe that it's somewhat of a buyer's market because there's some leverage and they're having to come off. So it just depends on what you're looking at. If you have a fresh, new, really well-priced product, like a lot of your flips, they tend to go fast and sometimes over asking or at asking because you have multiple offers. But you have these other ones that are lingering, and like for instance, the one you were about to buy off the MLS that took a $70,000 price decrease, and that will be a huge percentage off of the original price. So it all
and mind you, it was only on the market I think 3 days or 4 days, but she had been working with this family for a while and got through probate, and so. For her, she's ready to get it off the books,
right. But I would also say, like, statistically, if I went through the MLS looking for things that had been listed for 5 days or less, and I called them up and like, hey, would you take a $70,000 price decrease just to get this off your hands?
No.
It would be a heck no.
Well, and it was also good because there was another, I don't know if it was I think he was an agent, but I think maybe he was an agent investor that was in there. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great to walk it while he was there because he was having a really hard time.
He's like, oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. No, this is, this is, and then like on his way out, he's like, yeah, this isn't for me. So yeah, it was helpful. It was very helpful. I've had that before where I've walked with other people and like, I just feel the need to be helpful. I was like, oh yeah, hey, water heater looks new. It's like whatever. Like you notice this
Stop that. Somebody slap Ashton's hand.
Yeah, you definitely. hey, in your math, make sure you factor in a new panel because Anyway, but yeah, it's. I've had that a few times.
Yeah, and I usually try to. If there's competition there, I'm usually not broadcasting like all the things I'm going to do or not do or whatever because all it takes is one of those little aha moments to somebody else to be like, oh, I was going to
make this a 3-bedroom. Maybe we could make it a 3-bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah. Luke got to walk that one. So that was fun too. We didn't talk about that. Luke got to walk that one over there in Dallas and kind of see the process of doing that and running the numbers. And that was a lot of fun too. So I think he'll be around a little bit more, getting to do some of that. So, all right, let's talk about a little bit of news.
Let's do it.
In the Dallas Morning News, we have talked a little bit about how property taxes are under fire. And then when they start doing the math, you're like, you know what? So there's several proposals going right now that they're going to entertain. But the disheartening thing was they did the math. And right down here it says, cuts already planned for this year will drop taxes an average of $133 a year. So for you can go fill up the F-250 and go get a carton of eggs and call it a day for all your savings that you got on your property taxes. Like that's like nothing, it's like as a percentage of, but then they write a whole article about it. Like this is going to change people's lives. And like they went out to this poor lady's house and said, hey, stand over there and let's take a picture. We're going to feature you in the Dallas Morning News
well, look at the difference
face
between
$133
I think
a
that's
year.
Just some Austin stone with some mildew on it. But I was like, look at the difference between those two units. One looks really good. The other one looks really
yeah. They got some limestone with little. But anyway, I was like, man, okay, cool. Yeah, they're doing work. But this is just classic. Hey, we want credit for helping you out, and I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. But these lawmakers are going to take weeks and weeks and weeks and tons of people time, and then they're going to get all sorts of press for doing all sorts of stuff for us, and it's going to average out to $133 a year of savings. It's like, man, thanks a lot. Thanks.
Well, there was a huge controversy in Denton County with taxes over this last couple of years on property taxes. So,
well, I mean, them capping it and having some rules there would be nice. And I know I'm giving them a hard time, but they are working some on that, and it is helpful. But our mortgage jumped over $300 this, so I guess if they're going to give us a savings of 133, that's half of our jump. But so we may fight the property taxes. I don't know. We'll see. So we've talked about this the last 2 weeks, but the Dallas Morning News has an article and it says decision to close downtown Neiman Marcus is, quote, final. Saks Global says, which is the parent company. And as you read the article, it says that the city of Dallas has secured the deed for the property of the Slaughter Partners. That's the land lease that we talked about last week that's underneath. And so the city has secured it. It was donated. And still the Neiman Marcus people are saying, yeah, thanks for that. But y'all didn't answer your phone the first 3 days. And so we've decided to move on. I just still think that this stinks. Like they wanted to move on. They were sort of looking for a reason. This kind of initially gave them a reason, and then everyone jumped in. It's like, oh no, we'll help. We'll get it. We'll get the land donated. And they're like, no, we're still leaving. Yeah. And so they're out. They say the decision is final. So side note, when this says Saks Global, did you know, this is a super side note, but I saw a random thing yesterday that the CEO of Goldman Sachs is a DJ. Did you know that?
Really?
Just
No,
have,
I
just
didn't
have
know
it
that.
ever mentioned that?
She might know that. I never knew that.
Yeah, he's a DJ. The CEO of Goldman Sachs is a DJ.
Like a DJ for a radio station, or like
No,
a
like
nightclub
yeah,
techno
like nightclub
DJ?
techno. And not only
Wow.
that, he has 250,000 followers on Spotify.
Oh my gosh.
He's actually
Wow.
legit, evidently.
That's cool.
Yeah. So check out the CEO of Goldman Sachs. I can't. His name's like, what's his name? David. DJ. I don't know. DJ David something like. I have to look it up, but it has something to do with his name. Anyway, super side.
Nice.
All right. So we haven't the real estate heavyweights have not talked about food in a while. We went on a run where we were talking about a lot of food. But in the Dallas Morning News, 2 articles popped up and actually coincided with the fact that, so we're talking about one of the clients, I'm looking for property, off market property. He's looking for a lot that might be a tear down. He's in the business. He could build a custom house if he wanted to, but he's just looking for a lot in specific areas that he could tear down, and he wants to build something for himself. This isn't an investment. He wants his own house. Mm-hmm. One of their areas is sort of down near Knox Henderson. And so I was actually recently down there to have lunch at the Chewy's on Knox that supposedly is going to close. But this area is very vibrant, a lot of shopping, a lot of cool restaurants. Well, 2 articles in the Dallas Morning News talked about pizza places going onto Henderson. This one here is called Hendy's. It used to be called Safuzi, which I've never eaten at. But I guess I looked at another list, and Safuzi was a top-rated Dallas pizza place. But they're going to rebrand, and they're going to call Hendy's. And I think they're trying to maybe, we have like Soho, which is south of Houston, and NoHo, and you've got all that stuff. They're going Henderson East, Hendy's. I think that might be what they're, East Henderson. That might be what they're. That is an interesting picture there. It's either a dark gradient black wall on the back of the rendering, or it looks like you're on the ocean, which I know is not the fact. It looks like that picture looks like they have like an ocean.
That's probably the tollway. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. So they're bringing back, or they're rebranding. I guess the developer, he has 10 architecturally distinct buildings with landscaped walkways and multiple public spaces right around this area. And so there's a lot of construction going on right there in Henderson. But once it's done, they think it's going to be a really, really cool, very walkable space that connects kind of the Knox and Henderson areas, just to make it even more vibrant. I mean, because there's a ton of the young folk love that area. I mean, I like Chewy's. I've got a buddy, Daniel, the piano player, who I keep in touch with. He's a real estate investor as well, but he actually just got done playing for John Mayer at an event, which he's really talented. So every once in a while we'll eat. And so Chewy's on Knox is kind of in the middle for us. And so we normally eat right down through there. But so anyway, new pizza place there on Henderson. Well, then another article popped up, and another pizza place is going in on Henderson. I guess it's some competition, but this one is a famous pizza place called Prince Street Pizza. It started in New York, but it has locations in Hollywood, Las Vegas, and Miami, and more. So maybe like Amarillo or something like that. But Prince Street Pizza, a buzzy restaurant that originated in New York City, will open on Dallas's Henderson Avenue, and it'll be the first Prince Street Pizza in Texas. It looks really, really good. So this brought me to the question for you: is top pizza places. Name your top 2 or 3 pizza places in the DFW.
Oh man.
We went to Zoli's the other day in Addison, and that's a pretty good one. That makes a lot of that's where you and Wally and I went, over there by Nate's. That's a pretty good one. That has a Star Wars theme pizza. I like that place. The one that's a little overrated for me that we went, downtown Carrollton had Tex Fest. They had this sort of festival, Texas Brewery Festival the other day, and afterwards we went over to Connie Rosso. And Connie Rosso is very famous Dallas pizza place that started out as a truck stop or a truck yard or food truck. And it has a deep Ellum spot, which is really cool. The problem is the last few times I've had it, it's really good. Maybe the first slice you eat, but if it sits at all, like it's just really soggy, floppy thing. And it's just not like the taste is good, but it's just, I don't know. It's lost a little bit of its luster. The first few times I ate there, I was like, man, this is amazing. But Cane Rosso has fallen off a little bit for me. For me, the place that I like that a lot of people don't know about is DeLuca Gaucho. Oh, have you been to DeLuca Gaucho?
I have not.
Have I told you about it?
Of pizza, but
well, maybe you should start.
I like pizza. I mean, I do like it, but we don't eat a lot of it.
So yeah, we should definitely start eating more pizza. I mean,
Pie Tap's got some decent
Pie Tap. So that was on this list. I've never been to Pie Tap there in Plano, but it was on this list as the top places in Dallas. So it is. Yeah, a lot of them are.
What's insane. The place that's over there in Grandscape? Is that
Perry's?
Perry's.
That's Perry's is good. Bad. Yeah. There's a Perry's. There's actually one near you that you should try out. Andrew's Pizza. There.
Yeah. No, Andrew's is decent.
That's good.
We found that actually. We found that last year. If you guys were in Plano, so many things after COVID shut down early, and so what was happening this time last year was Landon was playing in playoffs for high school basketball, and so the games would run late, and we didn't have time to eat dinner before the game, and so after the game we're like, where can we go eat? And there just wasn't a lot of places open, and that was one of the places that was open, and we would go there, and they actually have good Italian food, and
I think their menu, they have like a huge, like they have New York crust, they've got Detroit, they've got, they kind of have,
they do.
And I think they even advertise a Dallas crust, which I think
they do.
This is false
kind of weird,
but
it's weird to name it that. I don't know.
I think they're making it up. I don't know that we have our own. I just don't think Dallas.
We definitely don't.
It's
have
proprietary
our
pizza.
Own pizza.
I'm glad that we have a lot of things that we can claim, but the culinary world sort of makes fun of Dallas just because it's just not as top notch as New York or San Francisco or Chicago, and I think a lot of people sort of. There isn't just a hugely identifiable.
Well, it's a melting pot, right? Like, I mean, Dallas has a lot of influence from other parts of the world as well as the states, and we definitely are the restaurant capital. Like, we have restaurants everywhere.
People spend more money on eating out here than I think anywhere else. So we should have some globally recognized ones. For whatever reason, if we ever make a list, it's typically on the Asian side. Like some of our sushi places will make really top list. But one day we will have to go check out DeLuca Gaucho. It's in North Plano. The reason it's cool is it's like the Brazilian carniceria, the steakhouse where they bring out meat just constantly, but it's pizza. And so you flip your little card over it, but it's super thin crust, really crunchy. It's like my favorite type, but they have, I think, 14 different types of pizzas. And so their people just kind of rotate around and they give you a little slice of this one. It's like, oh yeah, I'll try that. It's just a really neat, it's kind of it's a real pretty restaurant too. Like they did a good job. Yeah. I don't know. I like the DeLuca Gaucho.
Sounds like we got pizza lunch coming in our future here.
Yeah, I mean, shocker, a real estate heavyweight likes all you can eat pizza, but I will say it is a cool spot, and it actually is really good pizza. So,
awesome.
All right, let us talk about a segment we will call "Would You Do It Again?" And so, what I want to ask you are about a couple of things that in real estate investing. You try and it goes well. Sometimes it doesn't go well. Sometimes it's a home run. And of course you do it. You kind of make it your bread and butter. You've definitely settled into this world of, let's say, ARV 600, 300 to 600, or really like say ARV 400 to 600 in like Plano, Richardson, Garland, Carrollton, the Colony. That's kind of like your sweet spot right there. Mm-hmm. But you've tried a lot of different things. So I will start with this one because you're well known for this. I am going to stop sharing just so it's not a distraction. You're well known for this, but so 2300 Custer in Richardson was your house that you renovated, and you got a lot of articles written about, and it was a mid-century modern. But if I remember right, you lost money on that project. Mm-hmm. And so would you again take on a project that ate up a ton of capital? You may or may not make money, but let's say you break even, or let's very minimal make money, or maybe you lose a little bit of money, but you get a lot of articles and people know you for it. So is that something that you would take on again?
No.
Okay.
No, I the simple answer, no. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, look, to do anything that takes time, effort, and money, I think it needs to make a profit, right? I mean, the intent was to make a profit on that project when we started it. Ultimately, it did not make it, and it's kind of one of those things that, just kind of a weird anomaly in the market. When it happened, I mean, it was 2018 when we sold it, but we just missed the boat. We had an offer like 2 days on the market when we went live in December of 2017. We went on the market. I pushed it a little bit because it was a really unique property. There just wasn't a lot of supportive comps, right? It was very unique. If it was south of 635, would have been no question.
Yeah.
North of 635, the people that really wanted it just didn't feel comfortable going north of 635. I betted on the school district and, people falling in love with a home like that didn't have to go to private school. But really, the location ultimately is kind of what hurt it in that time frame. So we went on the market at 1.2. I got an offer, I believe, for $1 million. I think it was right at $1 million, maybe a little bit over. And we played hardball back on the counter. So we maybe came off 25 grand, right? And it was a way to kind of negotiate to get them to come up. And the guy disappeared. The unfortunate part was I was disappointed because I really wanted to walk it with this guy because I felt like he didn't understand what it was.
Right.
And so I felt like it was important to walk the home with somebody to explain, this is something that has like a frame off restoration, right? Like, we truly peeled that thing all the way back to the skeleton and rebuilt it like you would build a new home, but we kept all the character of the old home. And it was very hard to kind of explain that, but like me, from the artistry as well as like doing the project, it's like do it right or don't do it, know. And so I wasn't going to be, the typical real estate investor flipper that's going to take on a project like that was built in 1963 and just to,
shiplap.
Yeah, transform it into something that it wasn't architecturally.
A really cool modern farmhouse.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of components. Like, not only was it the house, we spent $610,000 in renovations. To give you an idea of what our budget was, I think our budget was like $400,000. So, to be $210,000 over budget is definitely, part of the equation and why we didn't make money.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. We've talked about this project before, but I will say, as a friend, you've brought that house up more than any other house. I think you're so proud of it. You had some awards that came from that. Like, that really kind of, I think for you, even just proved that you can do a project that's like super high quality, a mid-century, like notable house. And so now maybe you would say the question would be different, is if you had never done one of those, would you be tempted to do one just to do it? But now maybe since you've experienced it, you're like, okay, I did it, check the box, I'm good, I won't do it again. But to me, this is almost kind of like my boxing experience. It's like I trained for 2 years. I tried to do it 1 year. I got picked, and then my guy backed out. And then so I went a whole nother year, and I trained, and I got to box, and I had that night at the bomb factory. I won the first round. I lost the second 2 rounds. I've shown that picture of how big that guy is compared to me, to multiple. I used to, this was like one of the favorite stories that I would tell patients. They love this story and seeing the pictures. So, like, I don't know. Would I do that again? Yeah, probably not. although I would be tempted.
Yeah.
But if I had never done that, I would have that itch to be like, man, but having that kind of like cool, epic sort of story that you can tell at a party and just kind of, there is something to that, to trying something every once in a while. It's like, look, it didn't work out exactly how I wanted, but it's a really, really cool story. And that's how I see 2300 Custer for you.
Well, yeah. And I agree with that. I mean, I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity and the experience and all of that. I wish there was a monetary value that came out of it that would make it even better, right? So, I mean, ultimately, we ended up breaking even. We lost about 40,000 on the surface, but we had taken advantage of the tax incentive program with the city of Richardson, which basically said, hey, if you turn in all your receipts of your work that is done, we're going to give you a percentage of the tax increase. And so they did. And so we ended up getting about a $30,000 check.
Okay.
30, almost 40,000, I think, something like that. So ultimately it kind of broke even. It took like another almost 8 months or so to get that check, but and nevertheless,
it kind of came out.
It was an experience. I think the unfortunate part is, like I said, just the monetary value. We knew what we had. It just was.
I think it breaks your heart. I think part of it too, it's like you've seen it after the fact and you've seen someone else profit from it by selling it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not even, it's like, dude, I don't even think you know what you have, man. And like, it really drives you crazy.
Well, and last year it sold, for, $400,000, about $400,000 more than what we sold it for. And, it's just one of those things you're like,
that
but
could have been me.
Yeah.
So totally understand. All right, let's get on. I want to ask you about another one. Okay. So scratch build, new build on a lot. So I know you've done this before. You've worked with a builder before. This is a desire of mine. I would love to try at some point. So would you do, and I mean, I guess we'll just have to pick a price point, but let's just say you had an opportunity in Canyon Creek to do either a vacant lot or a tear down, brand new build. Would you do something like that?
I've considered it. Yes. Again, it goes back. It goes back to the profit margin. I mean, I think that's. You asked me the question earlier about 2,300. Would I do it to break even again? And the answer is no. Right? Yeah. Like, I think same thing with building. Like, I don't want to build just to build. I've built 3 homes from the ground up, designed them, built them. Completed them. They got awards as well. They just resold as well last year. 2 of them last year sold for $400,000-$500,000 more than we sold them for. So I haven't figured out how that all works, right? Like, I mean, when I run the numbers on it to get one deep enough to where it makes sense, is really what it boils down to, right?
Yeah.
Like, and doing a one-off that takes you 18 months to 24 months to make $100,000 just doesn't make a lot of sense when you're carrying.
I've heard you make like 600 to $1 million on those things, though. So,
yeah, I mean, we've heard that.
Dude, just do that.
We've heard a lot of that.
Let's run that play. Let's just do that play.
We've heard a lot of that. Which
run the touchdown play. So okay,
we can poke holes in that all day.
Yeah, but, so scratch build is a possibility. You're not vehemently opposed to it, but it would just have to make extreme sense. And the thing that you've talked about before is a lot of it for you is the time frame. It's the carrying cost. It's tying up capital for an extra 12 months that you normally would tie up for let's say 4 to 6 months, and then this is going to be a 12 to 18 month project. And so there is a lot of aspects there, but I mean, I do think that is a sign of maturing as an investor. It's like you settle into your zone and you're very comfortable with it, and you know a deal when it comes across, and you can kind of rinse and repeat and just do it over and over and over. Where there's people like me at the beginning of the journey, it's like, I don't know, man, that seems pretty cool. Let's try that.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't blame you for wanting it, but just trust me, if you get something that you can turn a $50,000 profit in 5 months, and then do that again, like you're going to basically do the same thing or more. And it's less stress maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's all kind of comes out in the wash, but
what makes sense is like a development situation, right? Where you're either buying 3 lots or a big lot, dividing it into 3, building 3 homes or something like that, where you can.
Hey, I sent you 82
capitalize
acres out by Van Alstyne yesterday. Just with the wedding
I
venue on
saw
there.
that.
Let's do the
awesome.
neighborhood. Let's do a full neighborhood.
That was awesome. So I think you've got to look at it. I think the longer that I'm in the business is now looking at true added value. When there's a true added value situation, which, a tear down build is an added value scenario. But, if you're not early to the game and taking advantage of the ride and, getting the lots at a really good price and then getting the bump out of the demand on the backside, then you're kind of late to the game for the lot value, because now all your neighbors know, like, oh, you just built a $2 million house, so now I'm going to sell you my house, for tear down value for
sure,
$500,000 versus $300,000. So there goes a $200,000 margin right there. So I think it's important to kind of look at those evaluations, and that's kind of what I do. Obviously, when you get into, one of the things that we're talking about with the new builds, the big preach is, the margins are so much bigger. You can do one project and make 6 figures, versus doing wholesaling or doing flips and making $30,000-$40,000 a flip. But the biggest issue is timing, and people will probably listen to this podcast and argue like, oh, you should be able to build a house in 6 months. And I'll tell you, yes, when we were building homes, we were doing them in about 6 months from the start of the, breaking ground to completion was about 6-7 months. The problem is it's all the soft time that goes into it ahead of time. It's the planning of the, it's getting the property, tearing it down, doing the design work, getting it turned into the city,
way more
getting
permits.
full permits, getting approval, and then scheduling, right? Scheduling is weather per minute. So, that's the issue with it. Like, there's a lot of moving parts, and I think if I'm the other part is scalability within your own company and having multiple people versus being a one-man show like I am now. And I have a great team of people, but not having the administrative backbone, it makes it definitely more challenging, along with other things. You kind of have to pick a lane. Like our buddy George Roddy, our first interview, if you guys go back and listen, George Roddy used to flip. He used to do a lot of things. He's chosen his lane. He doesn't flip anymore. He only builds new construction, and he has basically golden rule. He's like, I got to buy the lot at 20% value, and I'm going to build a house really fast, and we're going to sell it, and we're going to make a profit. And so he's got that dialed in, but he's now like, he's doing stuff in Lake Tawakoni right now, which I'm like, dude, that's a haul, right? That's a 2-hour commute. But he bought land at the right price, and he's building multiple houses on a plot of land, right?
Do a little bit of
same
scale
thing
there
in the Garland, where it was 24 houses. So he's doing little mini developments, and he's stuck to that plan, and he doesn't deviate from it. He's kind of like, this is my lane now. I'm not doing these other things. And it takes time and momentum to get that profit and get that business model running to where it makes sense to keep doing it.
So from my end, the thing that came to mind about when would you do it again? I've only done 4 flips, right? So mine come down to more, of course I would flip again. I would love to flip again.
Yeah.
And I know I would do a much better job of managing, and I know the guys way better, and I know the sequencing, and I know I could do a much better job if I had a crack at it again. And so for me, though, one of the big lessons, and we've talked about my friend Ricardo that I met. Would you do it again? So would I hire someone who walked up on a job site and said, hey, do you need help? And then they, all of a sudden they go from walking up on a job site, having zero to do that day, to being an expert in all sorts of stuff. And I was just so gullible, or I don't even know.
Not only that, his numbers were like a premium. Like, I don't know where he even calculated.
He came from
numbers.
The Hamptons or something. He's like, yeah, this is what I charge for. This is what I charge for fixing a hole.
When I showed up and I met him, I'm like, this dude's charging you this? Like, how did he even? Did he forget to convert from pesos to American dollar? Is
very
that really
possible.
what it was?
And then I gave him the first check.
And
He's
you
like,
gave
"Are
him
you
the
kidding
American
me?"
dollar, and then he's like, "Oh
He's
man,
like,
okay,
holy cow, this is real." He's like calling all his friends. Yeah, so I definitely would not hire a guy that walks up on a job site needing work. That
but you're a good
that would
guy.
be a no.
You're
The
a good
other
guy, and he wanted to work.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I was trying to get through the project. He overpromised, underdelivered, but I ended up I had to spend a lot of money,
Yeah,
fixing his mistakes. The other thing is, for me is like a design choice. Would I do it again? Is we've talked a lot about black tile. So, a lot of the Instagram cool things, black tile in the bathroom, that was a complete nightmare.
well, it wasn't your black tile; it was the black grout.
Black grout. Yeah.
It was the black grout, and it was the sequence of when you did it, and
got completely filthy.
Them getting trashed and having to be redone.
Yep, having to do that over and over. So yeah, I mean, there's a few things that of course I would change a lot of things, but a lot of it has to do with getting the right guys in there to begin with and getting them in the right order. That would have solved like 80% of my problems, because I actually really like the design, how it worked out at Polk and at Mapleton. I really enjoy the way that those houses turned out. It was just getting from point A to point B was a real issue. But the nice thing about those is that, I went through that. Polk was a hard money loan with a bridge loan to get there, and I used a GC. And it's like, okay, this is the most expensive way you can go about doing this. And so if you can figure it out that way and come out, you're like, okay, like now I can just make things more efficient. I can get cheaper money. I can get cheaper contractors. I can do it faster. I lower holding costs. It's like, okay, so that was a nice proving ground. Like, okay, yeah, I did this and I didn't completely lose my shirt. And let's figure it out for the next one. And so anyway, those are a few small things for me.
Yeah, and to wrap up, I think the moral of the story, between these things that you're talking about and things I've done, it's the action piece, right? It's taking action to go do it, to figure it out, to walk through the trenches and get the experience, and then figure out, is this, is it worth doing again?
Yep.
And if you do it again, what would you change and what would be different about it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, good deal. If you have not found us yet on Instagram or Facebook, go find us there. We're posting a lot of live walkthroughs, a lot of pictures from projects, and just kind of showing what we're doing all day, every day. We're about to have some, you've posted some really good pictures from the staging of Primrose. I posted a video about Primrose, and we got another couple coming out. So that one turned out really great. So if you haven't checked out the pictures from that one, go find either Tavis or my page, and you can see the walkthrough for Primrose, and it's amazing. And then we're going to do we're really going to try to do an in-depth job of following this new Carrollton flip and trying to get some videos going over there and see if we can document that a little bit. But until next time, hope you have a great day.
Thank you.